Hi, Michael here, and in this video journal will be about the blocks, the heel block and the tail block, bending the sides, and gluing on the side reinforcement braces. So keep watching. The blocks are made out of quarter sawn mahogany with the grain running in the same direction as the sides. The heel block is 4 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and 1 3/8 inch thick. The tail block is 4 3/4 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and it is 3/4 of an inch thick. Once again, the grain direction running the same as the sides. Now my guitars have a curved bottom, so my tail block needs to match that curve. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark it with a template and then go ahead and hog some of it off on the drum sander. Then I'll sand the rest of it down by hand. And the bottom of the guitar has a gentle radius on it. And so my tail block starts out, of course, without that radius. So it has to be sanded on there. So I've just got a piece of sandpaper. It's taped to a piece of cardboard. And then it's taped onto the form that I use to assemble the guitar. And I'm just going to sand down until I get the proper radius on there. The sides are 2.5 millimeters thick, 4.5 inches wide by 36 inches long. I use a clear acrylic template to mark the taper on the sides, and then I take those over and trim them to that taper on the bandsaw. The final pre-bending sides are 33 inches long, and they taper from 4.5 inches down to 3 3/4 inches. The sides are placed into a steam box for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the wood that I'm using. And then I place the sides in the middle of a sandwich that's made out of aluminum foil and parchment paper. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes in the steam box. So now we're going to go ahead and open it up. This is going to be hot. Line up my center mark, distilled water. Once I get the sides into the sandwich, I take it over to my bending machine. I put a stainless steel slat on the bottom, then the heating blanket, then the sandwich that's made up of the side, and then the top slat, also of spring steel, is placed on there. I'll clamp these together so that I can get them easily into the bender. Aligning the center mark on my sides with the center mark of the bender. Put a little bit of tension down on the center of the waist, and then put in my temperature probes, one on the bottom, one on the top. And once the temperature reads around over 210 degrees Fahrenheit, then I go ahead and bring the waist down a little bit. Make sure that my timer's all the way up to about 15 minutes on my controller. And then start slowly bringing the bottom bout down. And then the upper bout. I let the sides cook in the bender for about 15 minutes. Once the timer clicks off, I let the sides rest until the temperature probes show room temperature. Then I can carefully remove the sides from the bender and go ahead and open up my sandwich to make sure that the sides have gotten bent without any issues. Once the sides are removed from the bender and taken out of the sandwich, I take them over to the mold that I use to assemble the heel block and the tail block. I'll take a clamping caul and place it at the upper bout and go ahead and clamp it in place. And I'll also use one at the lower bout, clamping it in place. I'll also place a caul at the bottom and the top where the heel block and the tail block will be, because the next step is going to be to go ahead and trim the sides to the mold. I use a flush cut saw to cut the sides to the length of the mold. And then I'll use a little sanding block to sand down any grain that may have been raised during the bending process. Once I've gotten all those done, I'll go ahead and start assembling the molds, and I'll place a piece of wax paper between the sides and the mold to keep any glue squeeze out that will occur from gluing everything together. I'll do this at the heel block and at the tail block. The heel block and the tail block ready to glue in. The tail block does have the arch on it that the bottom of the guitar has. The heel block, however, is taller than it needs to be where it first touches the sides at the top. This is the back of the guitar, and the back has a 15-foot radius on it. So the back gets taller as it goes back towards the heel block. So I need to make sure that I've got enough material on my heel block there to meet the sides when I glue everything together. So I'll go ahead and mark that location of how much needs to come off, take it over to the disc sander, and sand it down ahead of time before I glue the block to the sides. Once the blocks are ready, I'll go ahead and glue them in. I'll start with the tail block, putting it in place, placing a clamping caul on, and then start applying the clamps to the caul, turning the mold over to the side so I can get to the bottom and placing clamps there as well. Well, I've got all my sides bent and I've got all the blocks glued on. Next thing I need to do is start working on the side reinforcement braces. That's these braces here that run the length of the sides all the way around. This is a side that I just used for demonstration purposes here that I've glued some kerfing on, and I had my side reinforcement braces on there. As you can see, these side reinforcement braces run the entire length of the side. A lot of guys will just put the kerfing on and then put the side reinforcement braces in between the kerfing. I like to do it this way for two reasons. One is that it's easier for me to get my kerfing installed by cutting it in small segments and gluing it in between the pieces of the sides that are curved. A piece of kerfing bends easily in this direction, but not in this other direction. So it's not going to follow the curve of my sides as I try to glue it on there. So by cutting it in small segments, I can easily fit it in between. The other reason too is that since this is a solid piece of wood and it's very thin, I could snap it by pressing on either side here and fracture it. With the brace only installed to the bottom of the kerfing, like it is on here, there's still a weak point right there and right there that the sides could break at. So by installing it all the way down, the sides get complete support all the way. The first step to doing that is to take my sides and gently clamp them to the back with my center lines marked. Then I can go on in the inside with my little blue pencil and mark the location where each of the back braces meet the sides, because I want my side reinforcement braces to line up with my back braces when they get the guitar all done. My side reinforcement braces are made out of quarter sawn Sitka spruce. They are 1/16 of an inch thick, 1/8 of an inch wide, and I cut them long enough to span the width of the sides. Since the top of the guitar is flat, I can use an engineer square to position the brace so that it lines up with the blue marks that I made previously that correspond to where the back braces will meet. Using a positioning caul clamped to the sides, I can place the glued up brace on the sides so that it doesn't swim around. I'll use a thick piece of clear acrylic that spans the width of the brace to help distribute the clamping pressure across the brace and to keep the brace from being dented by the clamps. Once the first set of clamps is on, I can go ahead and do any glue squeeze out cleanup, and then I can place a larger set of clamps towards the center of the brace from either side to help distribute the clamping pressure all the way across the brace. Well, that concludes this video journal. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. Join me next time as I'll start installing the kerfing and working on the arm bevel block on this guitar build. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe, hit the notifications icon, and there is a link down below where you can support the channel if you'd like. Thank you all so much for watching.